What would you say, in your opinion, are the potential advantages? That this is a big move. What are the potential advantages for Nigeria and India when they trade with their respective local currencies as opposed to using the United States dollar?
Well, this is a conversation that's been on for a while, and not just in the context of Nigeria and India or the BRICS only. It's also been a big conversation when you look at the AFCFTA in terms of being able to trade within Nigeria and Kenya within that Naira and shilling, and not having a third-party benchmark currency to trade with. So it's an ongoing conversation, just that is now elevated at the level of the BRICS. Well, it has its own positives, huge positives. That would mean that the different countries will get to have real-time economic value, for facilitating that trade, and ever also being able to, encourage more businesses to play in the mainstream of exchange with, the other country, in this case, probably India. All right, and it's also helped to show up, balance of trade receipts and also local revenues, and get more MSMEs in the export value chain, across the export value chain. And the reason why I say all this is because when you have a third-party currency involved, you have the conversation of the exchange rate happening. You have a conversation of managing that exchange to be able to protect, business owners and those who facilitate transactions across the exchange, across export value chain. That alone can be so burdensome, just in the bid to exchange goods and services. So that direct approach in terms of best use of local currency will help to also strengthen the value of the local currency, as more businesses will be able to jump on the export value chain to sort of exchange value within and across borders with respective countries.
We all know the exchange rate fluctuations, and Nigeria in particular, we're living in it. How will this affect those fluctuations?
Well, it's a very big conversation because to a very large extent, the value of the local currency is largely hinged on two things, the level of productivity in that local economy, and secondly, the level of the quality of institutional management, all right, as well as how that currency is being lobbied for and protected for in the mainstream. And that's one thing Western economies have come to understand very well, especially when you look at the US economy, all right, how the Fed and how, politics, how policies, how private sector, everybody comes together to protect, the value of its own currency, because part of what makes a country powerful or influential in the scheme of things is the quality or the value of its currency, especially when pegged to other currencies in the world. So within that context of things, it makes it a lot difficult for nations where you have low productivity and poor management of the currency to be able to, do business within and across borders when benchmarked with a third currency or a third-party currency like dollar in this case. So, and that has been one of the major challenges when it comes to ease of doing business within and across borders, not being able to facilitate the movement of goods, people, and services across or within borders due to the exchange pressure on the ground. And if you talk about Nigeria being able to do more trade in local currency, then you have the central bank will have less to worry in terms of being able to directly, manage the exchange. They would rather probably put more effort in trying to grow the productivity base of a local economy and all of that. But then again, it's a developing conversation.
Have we not had something similar with the Chinese currency, the renminbi? Because sometimes you go to markets like Balogun Market, Alaba Market, and all these markets in Lagos, and they also complain about difficulty in obtaining the Chinese currency, or that is hard to buy goods and things like the exchange rate is going high and all that. So will this really have an effect?
Yes, it will have a positive effect. However, do not forget that to a very large extent, many of the trade engagements that happen between Nigeria and any country in the world would first have to happen in dollar, and then then it happens on a second level between dollar and that local currency. So you still have that argument of currency wars, where heavyweight institutions in the world are doing all they can do to ensure that the focus is on the dollar, and they're as well trying to weaken arguments against the focus of other regional currencies like the renminbi and co. So you have that economics going on there, even exchange rates, interest rates, and how central banks are managing and having conversations around these rates. And the currency management is also impacting on these things. But however, if that happens, if there is a better, easier access, if there's an easier access to renminbi, it will be sort of helping to improve the local Nigerian market because of the already existing ties with China I mean, Nigeria happens to be one of the very biggest destinations of investment from China, and being able to also sell and exchange value from the local economy in local currency may go a long way to help the Nigerian position as well. However, one of the downsides to this major argument is the fact that exchange rate aside, if your country is not doing as much as it can do in terms of pacing up on the volume and value of exports, all right, that may also impact on it being able to play, within the mainstream of local currency exchange, all right, because at the end of the day, it's now the country who has the strongest value to offer, all right, that would end up being on the advantageous end of that divide. So take, for instance, now Nigeria is a heavily import-dependent economy. All right. So even if you try to do business directly with India or China today, it may still benefit the Indians or the Chinese more than it benefits Nigeria, because we don't have that productive capacity locally to meet the demand at the quality and quantity and pace of growth, that's currently happening in the Chinese or Indian market. So these are very interesting variations of this policy that needs to be considered if at all it's going to be a major landslide for local economies like Nigeria.
So we have our naira still chasing some of these foreign currencies, like the rupee and the yuan. How effective is the push by the BRICS nations, to reverse the domination of the dollar in the global economy? And Nigeria wants to join BRICS. How effective has this been so far?
Well, it can only be as effective as the number of quorums or quora they've been able to, garner in the context. So which is why you see that the BRICS recently has been open to conversations of new membership. We don't know what that term will sound like in the nearest future. Because you used to have the BRICS, you have the mint, and then you have the next level. All right, Nigeria used to be part of the mint economic bloc, but you now see that many more institutions are trying to find a way into the BRICS, because that's where you have lots of emerging markets who are driving strategic policy. Brazil has always been at the fore of local currency exchange. India has always been for it and all that. So that fight or that struggle to be part of the BRICS bloc is a major one. And you have so many Middle Eastern countries as well who are trying to vie for, who are trying to play as well within the BRICS bloc. The catch is that once you have a critical number of, economies within the BRICS blocks who are, whether new or existing numbers, willing to exchange at the local currency level, then the BRICS bloc itself rises to become an emerging threat. It's currently a threat, to the U.S. economy and even the G7 themselves. All right, so that's to tell you that, increasingly, they can now detect the global scheme of things when it comes to currency management. And that's the future in terms of how currencies will be managed, how currencies will play, what would actually define the state of global reserves. China has more gold reserves than ever before, and all of that. So BRICS economies are seeking to do more of work within themselves in the local currency, or peg the local currency against gold at the very worst or best case scenario. So being able to build that core and being able to garner those energies around policy, markets, penetrations and all of that will actually make the BRICS a very strong threat to both the Western and the G7 economies, as the case may be. So like I mentioned, it's a developing story. And we're looking at how the US will also tactically want to respond, because once you lose the currency power, as the case may be, you almost technically begin to lose your world power, because currencies are now the new form of national security. There's a strong linkage between the position of your currency globally and the global security or the national security in context to that nation that's hosting that reserve, in this case, the United States.
Interesting times ahead. Like you said, it's a developing story, and we'll keep our eyes on that. Gospel Obele, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.